bienvenue. I hope you're all doing well. Let's talk about one of my favorite movies that is largely unsuccessful, even from an art film perspective, which is unfortunate because it's a great film. One that sort of blurs the lines between fiction and documentary. Suzaku is a low-key minimalist film by Naomi Kawase, who is known more for her personal documentary styles rather than fiction. We all know that I am not a big movie person, it's mostly because I'm not particularly fond of Hollywood. The storytelling is formulaic and boring to the point of tedium. This is why the majority of films that I do consume are foreign or fringe, because the creators are constantly trying to create something new and possibly make controversial statements. Things that we should be talking about, but we're not. And this brings me back to Suzaku, which focuses on the unprecedented growth of the aging population in Japan and the dissolution of the traditional family system. It's a study of alienation that explores the effect of the post-bubble crisis on a family in a small village. The film was made in 1997, but it's absolutely frightening how relevant it is to today's global situation. We'll start with the traditional family. I've talked about the concept of EA before. The idea of a man at the head of the family with a doting wife and their children, but also this idea of filial piety, which means bringing in your aging parents to take care of them in their old age. In the beginning, we see the mother and the mother-in-law working together to take care of the family, the house, and more importantly, the husband, Kozo, who is the primary provider for the entire household. Kozo's mother, Sachiko, has a very comfortable life. He's married, so he has a wife to take care of him. That means she doesn't have to do that anymore, but she still dotes on him. Everything in the family centers around Kozo. We even see Sachiko, an elderly woman, fanning her son in the summer heat rather than herself. And Yasuyo is constantly offering him food and drinks. I gotta say, it's actually a part of the family dynamic that I find a bit of an oddity because the two women are working in harmony. The relationship between a wife and the mother-in-law is usually a little more antagonistic, with the mother-in-law bullying the wife. Of course, the entire dynamic of the family shifts by the end of the film, because we jump forward 15 years into a post-bubble Japan. And the family is no longer that traditional family aesthetic. I mean, Kozo doesn't have a job. The railway project that was supposed to be big for him was cancelled, and the village doesn't really have any prospects. He's no longer the breadwinner of the family. That's his nephew, who he's taken in during these hard times. This, of course, is a major blow to Kozo's pride. He's supposed to be, as the head of the family, the most essential member. But he's not really doing much of anything at this point, and the rest of his family are the ones picking up the slack. It's a complete 180 from what we saw earlier in the film, with Kozo as the center of attention, with the mother and wife doting on him. So not only do we have a new provider for the household, but also Yasuyo has been forced to take a job outside of the house, whereas before she was a housewife. So she's working a full-time job, but she's also still expected to keep the household, which in the end just proves to be too much for her. I love this snapshot of reality in Japan during this time. It was a tough time, and honestly, Japan has never really recovered, which is reflected in the non-fiction documentary aspect of the film. Yes, this is fiction, but the economic crisis and the aging population of Japan are very, very real, and something that the rest of the world is starting to deal with too. Instead of the comfortable life that Sachiko was used to, she's finding herself having to step up and take control of the household because her daughter-in-law is having to leave and provide for the family. We even see another elderly pair that are being sent to a care facility because their family just can't care for them anymore. The village is dying. The population is shrinking. There are hundreds of these villages all throughout Japan that have just been abandoned. Go search YouTube for abandoned Japanese villages. You will find dozens of them because families literally just picked up and left their life behind. This film is heartbreaking and beautiful because it ends on a family completely fracturing. Everybody is going in their own direction. Yasuyo is taking her daughter to go live with her elderly parents, who should be the ones that are being taken care of at this point, but she's having to rely on them. The nephew is moving on with his life, and the grandmother is being forced to move on as well, and abandon any idea of the support and comfort she had come to expect, because it doesn't exist anymore. And then we have Kozo, whose fate is left unclear. We have him standing at the entrance to the train tunnel that was never completed when the economy collapsed. And you're left with a distinct impression that this might be his end too. I know everything that I talked about is just super cheerful, but this film is fantastic, and if you can find it, watch it. It's definitely worth your time.